Alright, I get it. You guys don't want to play the most OP champions because they're picked and banned in every game. Well guys, I'm going to recommend 10 champions here who are low-key broken. Champions who aren't picked and banned nearly as much, or some of them might be, but they still might be just as OP as the top tier champions, but you're actually going to be able to pick them. What's up, GameLeapers? This is Ziggs, also known as the Jizz in these parts. And like I said in yesterday's video, Valentine's Day is coming up, and guess what? We have 50% off. So if you guys actually do want to jizz your way to success, make sure you sign up to the GameLeap website, buy for your ego, buy the subscription for yourself, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, by signing up, it's half price at the moment, and you get exclusive access to our massive library of content. And guess what our library is? It's Challenger. It is improvement. It's guaranteed success. Just sign up and you'll see for yourself. Join thousands of your fellow summoners and join the fun. Right guys, let's get into these 10 champions. First of all, we're talking about Ryze. But Ryze is picked and banned a lot and he's broken. Well, he's not really banned that much, especially in low elos. And I'm talking about Ryze top lane. So Ryze mid lane, we all know, right? We're seeing him in pro play, like picked and banned every single time. What I'm talking about is top lane in solo queue. Top lane Ryze really doesn't have many champions he loses against. It's very hard to actually get onto him because you have so much control over waves because of your amazing wave clear with your spell flux and your overload. And you also have ways to actually just protect yourself because of your rune prison. And when you run something like Phase Rush and even Ghost, you don't always have to run teleport. So if you're against a very scary champion, maybe like Darius, Renekton, Riven, something like this early game, you have to be careful, right? So Ghost as your second summoner spell will actually just be better. If we also think about this patch as well, 13.3, nothing is getting nerfed for Ryze. Like Rod of Ages, Seras, still really good because of the changes, they're not getting changed, and Ryze himself is not getting any nerfs at all. You can offer something like Everfrost, it's actually not too bad if the enemy champions, particularly if the enemy jungler and mid laner as well, who you're probably going to be interacting with for the early to mid game, if they are close range, Everfrost might even be better than taking Rod of Ages, but you have a bunch of options here. Just make sure you're maxing your Q first, into your E, into your W, and you should be sweet. Now moving on to number 9 on the countdown. Well, we're staying in the top lane here and talking about another AP champion, so let's just say you don't want to play Ryze. Well, how about picking Gragas? Now, I've already put Gragas on this list, guys, because he counters like the most broken champion in the game at the moment, this being Jax, that's right. Jax just struggles so hard against Gragas. Why? Well, you just E when he Qs and Jax can't do anything. Also against champions like this, if they have attack speed, Gragas is a very good frozen heart user, so you can offer this as well. Also, Everfrost is going to slow down a lot of melee champions, Jax being one of them, pretty much any other top laner, right? Because they're probably melee. And again, if the enemy jungler and mid laner are melee as well, Gragas does extremely well because the pressure you have with your E, your W, just a combo, right? You're going to be one-shotting anyone, particularly if you're going like Everfrost with the new Seras, the new AP you're getting from Seras. It's really useful to actually deal damage, right? But yeah, just remember, guys, you can go tanky, right? So if you have a lot of ability power on your team already, you can go for stuff like Fimbulwinter, which got buffed recently, into something like Frozen Heart, something a little bit tankier, right? Because your team might need a bit of beefiness. But yeah, I would just pick Gragas top if your team needs a bit of AP. He doesn't really have many losing matchups. Maybe Gnar does very well into him, but apart from that, you should be chilling. So Gragas is number 9. And when I say number 9 and number 8, guys, etc., I'm really just going through them. This isn't actually like in order. So if you guys want to make your list in the comments, no worries. Tell me who you think the most low-key broken champion is for sure. Now, moving on to number 8. This is Akshan. And again, I'm not talking about Akshan mid lane. Exactly the same how I was talking about Ryze in the top lane. So top lane Akshan. The reason why this champion is really good top lane is just because, well, you can go Bork, and because there's more on-hit damage now for ranged champions, that's one big reason, but also because, well, you just crush pretty much like every champion. You might have to be very careful about champions who can gap close to you, though. So a champion like maybe Tryndamere, maybe Aurelia, Jax will do very well. But the great thing about picking Akshan is that you're a flex pick. Most people are going to think you're going into the mid lane, next minute, you're into the top lane, hitting them from range, and just stomping them. Also, this rune page, I think it's really fascinating. Fleet, which has really been the popular thing in the top lane. The movement speed, the kite, it's very, very useful, right? To keep the range from the enemy top laners who are going to gap close to you. And also taking Absolute Focus and then Scorch. Now, the reason Absolute Focus is good is because you're a ranged champion. You should be able to control the top lane more than anyone, right? Because the enemy champion is probably going to be a melee champ. With Scorch as well, your Q will deal a lot of damage, you have a lot of poke here, and taking to Adaptive Force, that's what you're playing for, right? A Q max, and you will bully the enemy champion out of lane. I'd highly recommend running Ignite as well, guys, if you're going with this setup, because yeah, that is your goal, to win lane. If you're against a super free matchup, like it might be a tanky champion who's weak early game, then you can take something like TP, I guess, but still Ignite is going to give you so much kill pressure. So Akshan is number 8. Consider picking him in the top lane to carry your games. Now, moving into the jungle here, we're talking about Blue Kayn. Now, Blue Kayn is actually the only jungler on this countdown. Everyone else is probably well known about Blue Kayn because of the buffs coming in, where they're actually buffing your passives damage, and also the AD ratio in your Q. This is huge for mid to late game Kayn, because when that time does come around, you're going to one-shot people. Now, just make sure, guys, I've coached a couple of Kayn players recently. Please don't build Chem Punk on blue Kayn. You're not hitting multiple enemy champions right with your abilities. You're really single target damage. All right, your Q and W might be AoE, but you're just looking to one-shot people. Build lethality. Build items that are just going to blow people up. So because of the buffs next patch, I think blue Kayn is going to be in a really nice position. Just remember, your early game is very weak, so if you're against a strong early game jungler, ward your second buff, protect yourself. Start at your raptors or your walls if you're scared of getting late invaded. Just have the thinking cap on the first 4 levels, and yeah, just play the game after that. Also, you can take something like green smite for the tenacity, right? You don't always have to go blue smite or red smite on blue Kayn, so think about the enemy team composition if you actually need that type of smite. Now, moving into the mid lane, we have Orianna. Now, Orianna last patch got buffed, right? But her win rate didn't really go up too much. I mean, to be honest, like, her win rate did actually improve, and her play rate went up as well. So you can see here in Challenger across the world in over 1,300 matches, to have a 51.1% win rate is very respectable. But what's interesting here is that people aren't actually going like Luden's Tempest, which is what a lot of people are going in lower elos. Liandry's honestly, like, just looks better. Now, if you are the solo AP champion on your team, for sure you can take Luden's, but Liandry's on Ori, like, yes, you can one-shot people, right? But you're not really like a one-shotting champion anymore. And because champions are tankier, because of that durability change last season, right, the new meta, it's actually just hard to one-shot people with Luden's. Even if you get a full combo off, it is difficult. So with Liandry's, you're more playing around your ability to control team fights with low cooldowns. Your Q, it's a massive pressure, right? Wherever your ball is, the enemy champions have to be scared, and you will deal really good damage regardless, especially because of that change to Seras, right, where it's actually giving you ability power rather than ability haste. Just make sure, guys, I think anyway, start D-ring and try to get a tier early on, and then if you're running TP, you can TP back to lane if you're running Ghost, because the matchup is super free, so you might be against a champion who you don't really care about. Phase Rush is also a really good option as well, because your combo is pretty much QW auto attack and you run off, right? So this is going to create space from the enemy champion so they can't really retaliate. I just highly recommend, guys, in your games banning something like Zoe or maybe Syndra, because these champions do outrange Orianna and they can pressure her heavily during the laning phase. So that's what I'd say in terms of your actual ban when picking up. So Orianna in the mid lane, she's also a very good blind pick, which just makes her really valuable in solo queue. So yes, she is the first and actually only mid laner. Now, moving down to the bot lane, guys, we've got a bunch of AD carries to talk about here. The first one, well, not really an AD carry, but you're playing him as an AP carry bot lane. This is Ziggs. Now, lots of people at the moment, right? Think about the AD carries who are picked. Draven, there is Jhin, there is Caitlyn, right? These champions, I guess that Caitlyn has like a dash, but she's only going to use her dash when she gets engaged on, right? It's very unlikely she's going to use her dash to escape your Q. So these champions, because they're immobile AD carries, guess what Ziggs likes playing against? Immobile AD carries who don't have mobility. If you're picking him into something like a Lucian or a Kai'Sa, right? At a certain point, these champions become so impossible to hit, they're going to froth playing against you. But yes, if you're into a Jhin, into a Draven, you should be chilling. And I know this page is recommending TP, which as far as some of the spells go, it might be objectively like the second best to run with Flash. But if you are into a very scary lane, you can run other stuff. So something like Heal, for example. And of course, as far as your build goes, it's pretty standard. Getting Liandry's, and it's recommending Shadow Flame here, pretty interesting, because you should have an early tier stacking this, okay? So that's very important. Get an early tier on this champion, because tier or Seras is now giving you ability power. It's much better for pretty much every mage in the game. So Ziggs as an AP carry, guys, in the bot lane is the first of 3 ADCs. Now, the second AD carry to talk about this is Kog'Maw. And you guys are probably like, why are you talking about Kog'Maw? I have not seen this guy in ages. For sure, he's picked like barely at all, which is why you can see these stats here that when he is actually picked, well, in over 20,000 matches, you know, he's not getting too much action. But when he does get action, especially into the right lanes, guys, I honestly think this champion is kind of nutty at the moment because of the meta. So I talked about before, right, how if you pick something like Gragas, yeah, you're picking Gragas into Jax to just completely dumpster the meta champions. Think about bot lane at the moment. Who are the popular picks? Well, you've got Lucian and you've got Draven. These two champions, because they're kind of close range, as Kog'Maw, you're going to access them. You're going to be able to hit them. So if you look at the toughest matchups for me, we can see Seraphine, long range. We can see Twitch when he gets his ultimate, long range. We can see that Xayah is difficult because of her ultimate, right, and her E. We can't really get too close to her. And then we have Ashe and Jhin, long range. Caitlyn is also just following that. But Lucian and Draven, because they actually have to get close to Kog'Maw, Kog'Maw loves it. He still has like the highest DPS in the game. And also because of that Blade of the Ruin King buff, the extra on hit, it's just good for him, right? Like, it makes you more powerful. Now, as far as your runes go, you can take Conditioning and Overgrowth to super scale. You can take even something like Bone Plating. If you are into a scary lane like Nautilus Draven, that's what you can take, and you'll be impossible to actually win trades against. You can also offer something like Ghost as your second summoner spell, because Kog'Maw actually having Ghost allows you to stick to the enemy champions, especially when your Bio-Arcane Barrage runs out and you don't have the extra attack range. So Kog'Maw, I think he's super underrated, guys. Try him out in your games, but only as a counter pick. Blind picking, you will get outranged and dumpstered, so if you see Lucian Draven or something close range, pick him. Now, moving on, we have the last AD carry, this being Ezreal. And guys, this is in Challenger in Korea. Look at this for me. Ezreal has gone from like a C tier champ in every single region in the world and every single elo to above a 50% A tier champ. And this is in the hardest region in the world, right? So Ezreal being picked close to 20% of games. And the big reason why this champion has become a lot better is because of the crit changes. Now, I talked about in yesterday's builds video, I actually included Ezreal. So going Essence Reaver into Navori into Gale Force. But if we just look at this win rate here, an 85% win rate in Challenger Korea, and that's in over 30 matches. It's a big enough sample size with Essence Reaver into Gale Force. This legit, like, try this out in your games, guys. Like I talked about in yesterday's video, try this out and you will know what I'm talking about. Gale Force gives you more mobility, it gives you more kill threat, it gives you an escape, it gives you so much, and it's almost like you don't actually need Navori as your second item. Yes, I know it's proccing off 40% crit, but you can get this after this. So Essence Reaver Gale Force into Navori, just make sure your boots, your cooldown boots, because with Essence Reaver and Lucidity boots and then Navori, you will have your Q up like every half a second. Your E will be on a really low cooldown as well. Just be a little bit careful, guys, just blind picking Ezreal, because you give so many champions free lanes. So if we're talking about something like maybe Kalista or Samira or Kai'Sa, you are letting them scale for free and they probably will outscale you. But still, these stats tell us that Ezreal is kind of back, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see him a lot more in pro play when 13.3 actually does come out. Now, the final role, guys, to talk about, we have two champions here for the support role. And if you have enjoyed this video, if you are enjoying our recent videos, first of all, give them a like. That would help us out immensely. And also make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss our future ones. The first of two supports, this one is Thresh, and I'm excited about this. Like, we have not seen Thresh in pro play or like really pick that much for ages. And look at his stats. Like, if you check his stats in any elo, he does pretty well. It's just that he's not as good as like other champions or hook champions. But because of the changes that are coming in next patch, so you're getting more armor and AP from your passive. So when you're collecting souls, that's nice, right? Your Q, your death sentence, is also dealing more damage at later ranks, which is why I'm recommending here, like this page, to max your Q first. The AP ratio in your Q is also going up. And guess what? You don't have to build AP for this to work because you have AP from your passive. Now your Dark Passage cooldown, your W, is going down at rank 1, but actually up at rank 5. So pretty much this is just encouraging you to max your Q first and probably E second. That's why your Flay's cooldown exactly the same. It's gone down in the early game, but it is staying the same at rank 5, I guess. But yeah, down in the early game means you don't have to worry about actually maxing it instead of your Q. And your Flay's AP ratio, just like your Q, is going up, and this is by 50%. So pretty much all of your abilities, especially in the mid to late game, right, are going to deal more damage. Landing a hook really means something now. So I think this is going to be huge for Thresh. It's just the issue of actually playing it. So guys, if you do want to master this champion, again, check out the GameLeap website, link description, comment section for all the Thresh guys you will ever need. Now, the last support I want to talk about, this is Shaco. And no doubt, like, Shaco is probably played mostly in the jungle, right? But as a support, he is picked. And I think he should be way more popular in 13.3. The reason being, I just talked about Thresh, right, getting buffed. Lots of other melee champions are getting buffed. Alistair, Pyke, Rakan, Pantheon if the changes go through, if he is going to be played more as a support. I doubt it, but maybe. And Shaco loves playing against these champions because why? Your boxes, they come into you, they proc your boxes, you deal so much damage to them, and when you're going something like Leandry's and then Demonic Embrace, those healthier, tankier, engaged supports are going to take so much damage. Also, you have your ultimate to really bait them, so I think this is going to be a really nice patch for Shaco as a support. Just, yeah, try to pick him as a counter pick to those engaged supports because that's really why you're playing him in the bot lane. So those were the 10 most low-key broken champions, guys, for 13.3. Any questions, leave them in the comment section. And until our next season 13 upload, this has been Ziggs. Peace.